Test. Okay. Let's see if that worked. Okay. Okay, now everything is set up. Everyone, I apologize for the technical difficulties. My internet is very, very bad. There's a problem with like the whole block. So right when I tried to stream, my internet pooped out. So all I had to do was just wait for it to come back. Anyway, we can get started now. I do apologize for the delay. Today, this is my live stream, and I'm going to be oh, by the way, hi, I'm Adrienne Cassell, aka Avatar Lilith, and today I'm talking about my progress with the conceptual backings of Ether Institute. So I've like made this little chart that I'll actually draw out for you that sort of underlines the conceptual backing. I'll also talk about the progress that I've made with my essay. So I know I haven't really gone too in depth into my essay as well as the 5 pillars that I've created. So today I wanted to sort of outline that and give more of a background on that conceptual part. So after that, I'm going to be going more in depth into my Unity project. I think I did like kind of like a basic overview of it, but I wanted to go more in depth with my actual scripting. And I've come across sort of a dilemma with how I'm going to be rigging the bodies. So there are 2 potential uses that I'll show you for my avatar rig. So I'll be showing you my Unity project as well as the scripting. So today, hopefully, I can go a little bit more in depth than the previous live streams, if you were tuning in. Okay, so I guess let's start with the 5 pillars of the ether complex. And so I'm just going to read them out and give a little bit of a background just to set the scene, and then I'm going to draw out this chart that I've been making that sort of connects with these points. There are 5 nodes of this chart, and I'm sort of working how both of these things interplay with each other. Okay. So, as you know, Ether Institute is a place of discourse about the future of virtual avatars under surveillance capitalism. And I've created 5 pillars that are sort of the basis of my manifesto that are known truths, with the assumption that virtual avatars will be a source of communication and a source of interaction in virtual space in the near future. So that is the first assumption that we have. The next assumption is that surveillance capitalism is still alive and thriving, which, according to my research and speculation, that will definitely be something that is still existing in the future. So the first pillar of the ether complex is, so this whole thing is Ether Institute. So this is the online space where all of this theory and my creations and my avatars and my work is going to exist under. Ether Complex is basically the title of my theory and the title of this project that I'm working on with Laboratory Residency. So virtual avatars will be used as tools for surveillance capitalism. This one is kind of a given. We've already seen that through social media, we are being targeted as sites of information through our body, through our emotions, through our exhaust data of everything we do online. And when we integrate virtual avatars, that will inevitably be used as a tool for surveillance capitalism. Facebook Reality Labs is already scanning people to try and figure out what's the fastest way to build an avatar, and they're not giving anyone any autonomy over their virtual bodies. So this one is kind of like a given. So virtual avatars reflect our biases and relationship with our own physicality. So this is kind of going over the idea that our virtual presence and our virtual identities are a reflection of how we see our own physicality and how we see our own corporeality. And the next pillar, the third pillar, sort of goes off of that idea where the biases that we have towards our own physicality are even more reflected and are even more heightened in virtual space. I know there's some sounds outside. I don't know if that's a little bit distracting, but is anyone watching this? Oh, two watching. Okay, cool. Hi. Okay. So, where was I? Biases. Right. So the biases that we have towards our physicality and our othering of people who don't look like us, that is definitely amplified in virtual space with the affordance of this level of abstraction that we have with our virtual identities. I've watched thousands of people interacting with. I've spent a lot of time looking at how people interact in VR chat, which is just an online platform where people can talk to each other and be embodied in virtual reality online. And what I've noticed is that the biases towards otheredness is extremely amplified due to this level of abstraction that we feel away from our physicality and away from that accountability. So, you know, in VR chat, I've noticed a lot of racism, sexism, homophobia. It's pretty rampant. And I think it's due to that level of abstraction that we feel, even though we're not 100% anonymous. It's that level of abstraction that we separate ourselves from our physicality, because that is what gives us the accountability. So the fourth pillar is asymmetry of knowledge is unethical. Our bodies are sites of information, which equals knowledge, which equals power, which leads to social inequity. So asymmetry of knowledge is in the context of consumer and corporation. So we as the consumer, well, we're not really the consumer, we're the actual product under surveillance capitalism. But it's this idea that the asymmetry of knowledge that is sort of looming over us by these corporations is inherently unethical. These corporations, Google, Facebook, Instagram, they have so much data about us, about what we're thinking, about what we're feeling, about all of our exhaust data. That's the term that is that describes any mundane data that we produce when we click on anything, when we look at anything, how long we're looking at something in our scrolling feed. So that asymmetry of knowledge is asymmetrical in the sense that we don't know the extent of data that these corporations are having over us, and that is inherently unethical. That's it, as Shoshana Zuboff puts it, it's a direct assault on our human democracy. So because our bodies are sites of information, which is an assumption that is existing now, that's a truth that is existing now. I'll mention as a brief footnote, Pokemon Go is something that I'll talk about later, but they basically had this experiment where they wanted to prove that we could surpass the virtual space and try to gain footfall, which is the term for the amount of people that will go into stores. So businesses paid Google to put Pokemon in their different stores. So it was this surpassing from the virtual into the physical that is kind of scary, but that's kind of a footnote. So our bodies are sites of information, which equals knowledge, which equals power, which leads to social inequity. So certain bodies have more power over other bodies, and the people in power have the ability to reflect this power in a way that is that basically targets people, mostly minorities, who don't have power. And the fact that our bodies are sites of information it leads to inequity. And the knowledge that they have is, you know, as said in this first sentence, the asymmetry of knowledge is unethical. So basically, that was like a lot of a lot of words to say. The basic, this one's kind of a tricky one, because there's just like a lot embedded in this pillar. But basically just know that our bodies are sites of information, and I'll go on to further explain that too. Okay. Scans and likeness of human individuals are not culturally recognized as significant. The passive nature of a 3D object elicits questions about who is in control. So, a 3D object is ontologically very passive. It is a vessel that is meant for control. It is meant for someone who is an animator or a developer to use. So whether that's, you know, animating or making them speak or using them in your sorry, I'm gonna wait for this car to pass. Okay, hopefully everyone can still hear me over the cacophony of truck noises. So where was I? Right, okay. The passive nature of a 3D object elicits questions about who is in control. So when someone has an avatar, who is going to be controlling that avatar? Do you own this avatar? Is this avatar your body? We really don't perceive scans and the likeness of human people onto this this ontologically passive 3D object as significant because we're so used to seeing photographs. We're used to seeing, you know, representation through the plastic arts of human likeness. But the fact that there's this addition of interactivity and passivity is when it leads to issues about control and power dynamics and bodily agency. So I'm actually going to draw out this little chart that I've been making. Here, let's move this. Maybe later. Thanks. So this chart is the foundation. There are the 5 foundations of this whole project, which is surveillance, knowledge, control, bias, and power. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I will show you in a little bit what inspired this little chart. It's kind of interesting. All right. So this is the foundation of ether. It involves the 5 pillars of the ether complex. So the first node, these numbers I'm calling nodes. So the first node is surveillance. The second node is knowledge. The third is control. The fourth is bias. And the fifth is power. So the way that I've structured this is each node sort of culminates into the concept of power and the question of power involving all of these systemic nodes. So I've sort of made this an equation for myself. So let's start with, I'll just start filling this out. So these links between each nodes underlie the processes of which that illuminate these systemic interconnections. So I'm gonna maybe repeat this a little bit, but the whole purpose of the Ether Institute is I'm using the mechanism of pointing to a specific method of power and using that to illuminate systemic interconnections, and these systemic interconnections exist now. So I'm using this communication about the future to underline the systemic interconnections of our present. So targeting. Okay, so first I'm going to start with data. So surveillance plus knowledge equals data. So we're being surveilled by corporations, and that leads to knowledge. And the way that they're doing that is through data, through exhaust data, through our online presence. That's kind of a given. The bias that people have against certain marginalized bodies and the knowledge that we have over those people are being, well, here, I'm going to add this here, manipulated through targeted ads and targeted content. And I'm sort of doing this out of order, but okay, so the link between surveillance directly going towards power is emotion. Did I spell their emotion? Yeah, I know how to spell. So emotion is something that's extremely important for corporations. The reason we have Animoji is to understand our emotions, because once corporations understand our emotional states at any given time, that is the data source for prediction and predictive behavior, which is a tool that we use for control. So surveillance plus control equals predictive behavior, which is, and according to this chart that I've outlined, a source of inherent power. So the mechanism of using surveillance and control to get power is by the creation of products that are being targeted towards people, according to their like personality profile or biases or whatever algorithm decides what type of person you are. Okay. So again, what I mentioned before with my fourth pillar of ether, knowledge plus power is asymmetry. And I don't know how to spell that, but that's okay. We're fine. So this is sort of this chart that I've been working on. I think I'm going to modify it a little bit more. So I'm going to show you my inspiration for this chart. This is I think it's called like hierarchy of power or chart of power or something. I'll have to look it up. So I promise ether isn't a cult, but if it is, you should totally join it. Okay. So this leads me to my essay, which, let's see. Okay, I'll try and talk pretty quickly about it, and then I'll sort of get into my Unity setup. Okay, so I know this is like pretty conceptually heavy, so if this is like a little bit much, that's totally fine. I think I just want to reiterate my concept a little bit more. I'm trying to think if I should go into Unity or if I should just continue talking about my project. You know what? I'll save my essay for the next stream because I do want to get into a little bit about the interactions of my Unity project. So I've already shown you the example of me being able to move my face with like directly live, live motion capture with moving my face, and that directly modifies my avatar. And if you haven't seen that, you can look at my first live stream on Laboratory Residency's Instagram or the YouTube. I'm like so old. And what I did was I took this little plugin and used all of this information for face analysis that is being sent over a network to control this avatar. So now what I've done is I've gone and tested the body rigs. So I'm going to be moving my body, and that in turn will, in real time, move my avatar. Okay. So let me try and like make it very tangible. The way that this works is you have an avatar, you have a 3D model that has bones inside of the model. So just like you have bones in your body, I mean, hopefully you do, it's okay if you don't. The way that it works is each of these bones, also this is, I've created more Avatar Lilith content that you'll be seeing shortly. So this is Blender. I've talked about it before. This is a 3D software that allows you to create and edit and animate 3D models and such. And the way that my rig system from Blender to Unity works is that it's taking this bone information and it's connecting the coordinate points. Well, actually, there are two ways to do it, but I'm just going to explain what this is. So pretty simple. You create the avatar, and then you what is called rig it. So rigging is the process of putting these bones inside the model and then attaching the skin or attaching the mesh of the model onto these bones so that you can move it. Kind of just like a little puppet. Okay, so we take this puppet. Interesting word, a lot of thoughts about that word. We take this 3D model and we import it into Unity. And this is, I know it looks very funny. They love each other so much. So what I've done is I've added 3 of these models in the same position that follow the direct coordinate points. So I don't know if you can see here, but it says left hip here. Here, I'll actually start this thing. Okay, so this is detecting my body, and I have connected it to the points in space with different interpolations of time. So I know you can see that the red one is going a little bit faster than the other 2. So this is sort of just like my test to kind of see how smooth I want the movements, you know, in what way I want them. So I really have just been like focusing on the arms here. These are just like random like test models that I've been using. And so this is the first way, well, this is actually the second way that I've developed this project. And I'll actually, you know what, I think I'm just gonna draw it out. Okay, so you've seen that, you've seen how they just move kind of slowly. It's kind of, you know, it is very smooth, which I really appreciate. So the way that this works is you have your avatar and you have like an arm or something. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. Okay. So you have your avatar, you have an arm, and you have your rig. And this moves the arm. So it can move, you know, with rotations in any way. And the way that I made this rig is that I added a script to create coordinate points that my plugin is spitting out. So this, for example, is the coordinate point for, I don't know, for elbow. That's where the elbow should be. Let's say that. So this is elbow. And in real time, this coordinate point is moving. So wherever, it's a plane, I'm gonna wait. I don't know, I don't even know if you can hear it. I mean, I don't even know who's watching, but it's just me and my computer waiting for this truck to stop. Okay, I think it's gone. So the way that this works is the elbow coordinate that is being imported into my Unity project is moving around in space. And so this bone will follow that in a way that allows the rotations to fall into place. So this point right here is the origin point of that specific bone. So I have a script that's called look at, which I'll show you here. I do apologize if this is a little intangible. So I have this thing called look at target, and what it does, it basically just takes that imported coordinate point and it points that bone from the origin point towards that model. So we can see here, let's bring this up. Okay, so I wish I could show you the, oh, I can, here we go. Yeah, there we go, okay. So do you remember that like left elbow point that I showed you? Here, okay, so for right hand, it's sort of like here. I don't know if you can see the H. That's kind of the coordinate that it's following. So the bone inside of it is pointing with rotations towards that thing through the look at script. It's just called lookat.c#. Look at target.c#. And the smoothness and the interpolation that you see that I have modified for each of these models is just from this one line here. Okay. So, what was I doing here? So the pros of this are that it's very smooth, it's very natural. However, I can't seem to figure out why the rotations for certain body points, which I haven't showed you because I inhibited those scripts on those certain bones to test it. But for certain coordinate points like the hips and the legs, they don't actually point towards what I want it to look at. So there's that question of directionality. Ooh, what is that? I almost started spelling my name. Okay, which is going to be kind of a task to figure out. So the other way that I did this was I used the actual mesh of the model that was being controlled by the bone, and I'm using the actual model point here instead of the bone. So there's the difference here is that I'm moving the bone, and for the second option I'm moving the actual model. So here, let's see. Here you can see I'm just picking up left arm, which is just the amount of mesh that has been labeled, or it's called skinning. Like you skin a model and you attach the body to the rig. And so the issue with this, I don't know if that was clear at all. I'm trying to think of it as like as if I would not have any like background info. The way that I think is I sometimes assume that everyone is inside my head and they already know what I'm talking about. So I'm trying to work on being a little bit more clear. Okay, so basically the issue with the second option is I can't get any rotations on it. So it can only move on the X and Y axis. So if you saw my facial rig before, that was being moved by the actual model itself and not the bones underneath it. So when I moved my head like that, my avatar would only follow it on the X axis. So the cons with this is that I can't get any rotation. But the pros of this are that it's more accurate. So I'll just show you an example of how I use this. And it also deforms it like in a really, really weird way. So I use this both for my Lilith installation project with, I don't remember what I called it. Maybe it was here. Yeah, it was just in 2019. So this got the rotations, and I was using my old computer at the time, so it's really jumpy and bad. But this is, you know, an audience member who is trying to interact with the avatar, and the avatar follows the person in a way that's accurate, but it just deforms the model really. I mean, I like it, but you know, if I'm trying to make something realistic, I will have to go with the second option. So let's go back to Unity. And let's go back to my script. All right. So the way that this is working, now I'm just going to do like an overview of my script if anyone is interested. I know it looks kind of complicated. It's really just redundant. I mean, I'm not a coder. Like this was kind of a big task for me, but I just did a lot of Googling, and that's how I made this project happen. So all of this stuff here is just introducing variables. So this is saying like, hey, let's have a public variable that is called right hip, right thigh, right shoulder, and so on. So I'm right now creating the possibility to target these parts of the body, and it's just creating the variable. It's just stating, hey, this is what I want to be able to use in the future. And it's assigning X, Y, and Z variables as numerical information. So float basically just means number. So that's here. So these are the variables that are going to be animated. So it's assigning the X, Y, and Z coordinates as sort of like empty values. So it's assigning, hey, these are going to be values that I wanted to use in the future. So it's kind of extensive, but I know there's probably like a way more elegant way to do this, but that's kind of how I did it because I don't know how else to do it. And this code here is basically just getting the OSC information over the network through a UDP packet. And a UDP, it's just like network information. That's all you really need to know. Not important, not important. Okay, so this is where the juice happens. The update function is the only function that keeps running every single frame. So if you have a frame rate of 24 frames per second, it's going to be running 24 frames per second. How am I doing on time? Okay. Okay. So when it says, so remember these variables that we made, the X, Y, and Z float variables? We're taking these and we're setting new variables that say move this bone by way of finding the object in the game. So GameObject.find is basically saying, well, where's the object that you want me to move? Oh, it's here in the actual project. So a GameObject is anything that's existing in the viewport, pretty much. So this is a GameObject, this is GameObject, that's a GameObject. All these things are just GameObjects, and this is just telling the code where to find these specific body parts. So here it's saying we're setting a variable called move_lhip, and that data is being set into the variable by telling the computer where to find it, which is right here. So we're setting that for pretty much all the things that we want to move. Oh, my mouse just died. That sucks. Hold on. Gotta have the juice. Gotta have the juice. All right. So we're taking the variable that we just set, and we're taking the transform property. So the transform property is basically all of this stuff up here. So each GameObject has position, rotation, and scale. And we can actually get that information from our script. So usually when a dot or a period happens, it's saying, okay, well, we're taking the asset from that particular object and we're trying to get it into our code so that we can further use it. So we're saying move lshoulder.transform.position. So we're saying, okay, according to the transform values, we're going to take that positional information and we're setting it to the XYZ values of this coordinate point that we're going to be getting. So back to where we said all of these things here, it's setting them here. Okay. Well, okay, this one's a little bit tricky to explain, but basically what it's doing is saying for each message, so this plugin that I'm actually, streaming from, this box that I'm in is this plugin that's sending OSC messages. So messages are just letters and numbers, and it's sending that into my Unity project. So for example, all of this stuff here, when it says case neck, this word along with the coordinate data is being sent into the console here. So let's see if I can actually stream it here. It might crash. Oh, I have to save it. My bad. Oh, fuck, this is the wrong one. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse my language. Oh, that sucks. Okay. Well, okay, all you really need to know is that in this console will be the message neck and numbers like 0. blah blah blah, comma, 0. blah 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 blah, comma, 0. blah 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 blah, comma, and those are the XYZ values. And that's how we're able to get all of those coordinate data into this script. Okay. Maybe later. Where am I? Okay. So, where was I? And so it's saying for each time we get the message neck, what are we going to do with it? Well, remember when we set those variables from x, y, and z, and those float values that equals 0? We're saying, okay, well, take these x, y, z values of each of those variables that we made and set them to the values that we get from the neck message. So the neck message that was like 0. Blah, 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 0. Blah, 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 were the x, y, z values. So it's saying, okay, so for the x one, set the values that we get from that message here, set the z values we get from here, and set the y values we get from the coordinate points. So all the coordinate points that I was referring to, they're all moving. So for the h that you see here, no, that's r, sorry. This is a coordinate point that's being sent over to the network. So this is all happening in real time. And remember, we said that the update function moves each frame. If we have a high frame rate, it'll go pretty smoothly. And this new machine with the Ryzen 9 3900X, I feel like I'm a promo video, it allows me to have it go a little bit faster, which is really nice and a lot smoother. So that's basically it for my script. I hope that was intelligible. Let's see, this might be a long stream. When did I start? You know what, I'm just gonna sum it up with, I guess, like, the main talking points that I really want to be thinking about with a lot of intentionality with this project. So I'm using my avatar as a tool of research. And the way that this fits into Ether is that I'm putting my avatar, well, let me open this. I am going to be putting avatar Lilith on different places of social media. And I'm using that as a tool of research to see how people respond to my body in virtual space in order to get research. And I'm also creating this rig to be able to interact with people in that way as well. And let's see, okay. Hello, I'm back. Does this look like me? Maybe a little bit. So all of this really comes down to interaction with human likeness and human agency. And the things that I'm really thinking about are, you know, all of this is under surveillance capitalism, which is happening now. And again, as I mentioned before, I'm pointing to a specific method of power through the ether complex and through my own body, and using that tool to gain more knowledge about sort of just like the embedded systems in which we see our own selves and other people and the likeness of other people. And I'm using that to better understand the future and our present as well. So I'm pointing to a specific method of power and using that to illuminate systemic interconnections. So that being said, the things that I'm really thinking about now are, if our interaction is coded in the manipulation and stealthy data sourcing of our bodies, how can we exist in a future that holds truth and veritability as a pillar of our society? How can we be true to ourselves and each other in that society? And if the body is a reflection of our identity, and our identity is a vessel that inherits control, you know, in the future of this avatar conversation, how can we maintain our autonomy and agency over bodies within constraints, in the age of corporeal commodity? So within the age of surveillance capitalism. So I'm using these tools, again, to point to a specific method of power that illuminates systemic interconnections that are already existing now. So it's sort of taking this idea to the extreme, and to the extreme speculative future, to underline our own perceptions and our physicality and our current state of how we exist within ourselves, within relationships with other people, and our relationships with ourselves online and other people online as well. So I think I'm going to end that there. I did have a little bit more about my essay I wanted to talk to you about, but I think I'm going to save that for next time. I hope any of that was intelligible. I'm also working on a tutorial for how to build a PC. I built my PC a few weeks ago. I've been running into some issues, but I want to, make PC building something that's accessible to other people so they don't have to watch 1,000 YouTube bros on the interwebs, because that's what I had to do, and it was kind of miserable. So the actual building was really, really fun. I really enjoyed it. I loved, just taking that risk and putting everything together myself and sort of getting comfortable with how components work and how those parts all come together. And it really helped me kind of get a better understanding of how my own machine works. So I'm working on that. Hopefully I can make this a little bit more intelligible, tangible for people to understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, I don't know. I think I only have 2 people watching. I think one of those people are me. So I'm gonna wait a couple minutes if there are any questions, and then I'm gonna end this stream. It might be only me that's watching, because I have this open on my laptop so I can see comments. Well, I think I'm going to end my stream. Thank you if you're tuning in, and also if you're watching in the future. I really appreciate any feedback, or if you're interested in anything. I am more than happy to talk about these topics or any topics that you're interested in. We're just like out here floating on the internet, and I think it's cool to build communities and build a place that allows for discourse and collaboration, and I hope Ether can eventually become something that is a source of that. So it's not a cult. If it is, though, well, if it was, you should join it. And I think that's it. So thank you again. This is Adrienne Cassell, also known as Avatar Lilith. Thank you. Again, thank you to Kristen and also all the other residents. You should really tune into their streams. They're pretty badass. Like every single person in this residency, their work is kind of mind-blowing. So be sure to tune into their streams. I look forward to seeing how everyone's project develops, and just looking forward to the rest of this residency, and also the artist talks as well that are happening at the end of this residency too. So thank you, and signing off, if I can figure out how to do that.